Gindo's Games!
Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm Gindo Keshi, and it's time for another League of Legends Champion Guide. Today, we're going to be discussing a ubiquitous lady, someone everyone has played if they've even touched the tutorial of the game. This is Ashe, the Frost Archer and Queen of Freljord. Get your quivers ready, it's time to learn how to Ashe. Ashe is one of the game's first AD carries, from before there was even a concept of what that was. She's fairly weak as carries go, lacking in attack speed, steroid, escapes, and with less damage than most others. But what she lacks, she makes up for with massive amounts of utility in the forms of slows, stuns, map awareness, early game harassment power, and late game potential. In fact, with all the utility she has, she can function quite well as a support too. Ashe's passive is Focus. Every 3 seconds that she does not attack, she increases her critical hit chance for her next strike. It will reset after the first shot regardless of whether or not you actually get a critical strike. The only exception to this is that she will not waste focus when killing a ward. The critical hit chance gained from Focus stacks, of course, with other crit chance gaining items. Focus makes your first shot in a fight always a critical hit, making her quite a powerhouse in a level 1 teamfight. Be sure to try and use that first shot of the game on an enemy champion rather than a minion. The Frost Archer's Q is Frost Shot. It is a toggleable ability that causes Ashe's basic attacks to slow the target for 2 seconds. Each attack costs 8 mana as long as you have it turned on. As it levels up, it's like having the effect of a frozen mallet for free, but better. Frost Shot makes Ashe exceptionally good at kiting and chasing, allowing her to keep the enemy at arm's length while constantly pelting them with arrows. As it does not add much to your early game on its own, but is great later, take a point in it early and max it out second. Ashe's W is Volley. How is it that fantasy archers can always fire so many arrows at once, huh? Apparently Ashe can shoot 7 of them in a cone, dealing physical damage and applying the level of slow that Frost Shot currently has. Each arrow damages the first thing it hits and nothing beyond. It can even hit and slow stealthed units. Volley is Ashe's only normal damaging ability and allows her to both poke her enemies and farm at the same time. Its cooldown in the early game is a little long, but eventually drops down to only 4 seconds. For the slows, harass, and quick wave clearing, take a point in this at level 1 and max it out first. The Ice Queen's E is Hawkshot. Passively, this gives her extra gold every time she kills a unit of any sort. When activated, she summons a Spectral Hawk to scout out an area for her, revealing the terrain it passes over for 2 seconds before finally exploding at its destination to reveal the area for 5 seconds. The ability has no cost to activate, but a rather long cooldown. Hawkshot's active range is massive and grows with each level, eventually rivaling Twisted Fate's teleport distance. The spell's utility is great for keeping your team safe and scouting unwarded objectives, but the passive does not add enough to the laning phase to make it worthwhile in most cases. Take a point in Hawkshot around level 3 or so and max it out last. Lastly, Ashe's ultimate ability is Enchanted Crystal Arrow. She fires a massive arrow in a straight line with infinite range. If it hits an enemy champion, it will deal magic damage and stun them for up to 3.5 seconds, based on how far the arrow traveled. Also, it explodes on impact, dealing half damage to everything around the target and slowing them for 3 seconds. Enchanted Crystal Arrow is great for starting or stopping fights even if they're ones you aren't in. A well-aimed arrow across the map can set your ally up for a surprise kill. Take a point in this every chance you can. For runes, I take attack damage marks and quintessences, flat armor seals, and magic resistance per level glyphs. The attack damage helps out significantly in the early game while trying to last hit, as well as simply making you a more dangerous threat to start. The armor and magic resist help a little to make up for Ashe's lack of any real escapes. Masteries are 2190, with a fairly standard setup in the offense tree for maximum damage, and some defensive stuff for lane sustain and not falling over at the slightest breeze. Only the second slightest breeze will knock her over instead. As for summoner spells, like with many champions, I recommend always taking Flash. She has no escapes otherwise, so this will help keep her from getting her head caved in. Similarly, Cleanse will help against teams with heavier crowd control, and Barrier will help against teams with heavier damage. Lastly, Ignite is a good choice if you plan on being exceptionally aggressive. As Ashe is more of a late game carry though, I myself advise against it. Items for Ashe vary a little from the standard build on your more mobile carries. She lacks attack speed steroids or multiple damaging abilities to cater to, so she can focus more on crit damage for her output. Start with either Boots of Speed and 3 health potions, or Doran's Blade. The former will help you out against skill shot heavy or aggressive bottom lanes, while the latter will give you more damage and make farming easier. Either way, you'll probably want both early. The first big item you want to get is Infinity Edge. It synergizes extremely well with your passive and of course gives you tons of damage in general. Most carries will want to rush for a Bloodthirster first, but Ashe benefits more from the crits than she does from the flat attack damage. If you do need the lifesteal though, grab Vampiric Scepter on your way to the Edge of Infinity. Your boots should become Berserker's Greaves for greater attack speed, and then gain the Furor enchantment for chasing and kiting purposes. The only other pair of boots that would be particularly good option would be Mercury Treads if you are in need of tenacity. Once you have your boots down, move on to Static Shiv. This item is great for Ashe. Attack speed, move speed, and crit chance, as well as a unique passive for wave clearing. The last one is the most important part. The Chain Lightning ability can critically strike. Combine this with focus and the extra damage we're already getting from Infinity Edge for some crazy burst in the first shot. And on your way to buying it, you can get an Avarice Blade for more gold generation. In a similar vein, you have the traditional Phantom Dancer. This one gives you considerably more crit chance and the ability to pass through minions. Take this option if you're having trouble kiting your enemies otherwise. Next, go for Last Whisper. Some might recommend Black Cleaver for carries, but as Ashe is more of a single target damage kind of gal, she'll want Last Whisper for her penetrating needs. Follow this up by transforming your Vampiric Scepter. You can choose between a Bloodthirster or a Blade of the Ruined King. The former will give you more efficient damage and more consistent lifesteal, while the latter will help you out more against enemies with high health pools, as well as add burst and speed. Pick your poison. For our final slot, we have room for survivability. If you get this far, you're probably doing pretty well, so to make you impossible to kill, you could choose from either Warmog's Armor for the straightforward massive health boost, Mercurial Scimitar for more damage and another cleanse ability, Guardian Angel for more armor and the ability to get right back on your feet again, or Banshee's Veil for a spell shield. Lastly, I'd just like to mention 2 items you shouldn't touch. First, Runon's Hurricane. This might seem like a good idea with Ashe. It lets her apply her slow to 3 people at once. Unfortunately, this also means it drains her mana 3 times as fast. You'll quickly be out of mana and it won't be as much use to you. The other item is Frozen Mallet. Health and damage are great, but you can get that elsewhere, and slows don't stack well together, making Frozen Mallet fairly obsolete compared to Frost Shot. Speaking of Frost Shot, be careful about conserving your mana. Overusing Frost Shot or forgetting you left it on will drain your pool very quickly. If you're having trouble with conserving your mana, try toggling the ability so that it only applies every other shot. Your slow lasts for 2 seconds per arrow, so that way you'll get the full effect without worry. Be sure to use Volley throughout the game. In the laning phase, you can use it to both poke your enemy at long range and to farm. Just be careful not to push your lane too far with it. Once you're done with the main farm fest though, you can certainly use it to crush most of a wave at once. In team fights, while most of your damage comes from auto attacks, you can fire this thing off on a 4-second cooldown into the cluster of your enemies, AoE damage and slows. As I've mentioned, Ashe is highly reliant on her auto attacks for damage. Positioning is key. Never be in the middle of the fight. You get jumped, you're probably dead. Fire from a distance and kite your targets, slowing them down with Frost Shot and Volley. She's fairly weak in the early game and grows with her items more than anything else. As such, in the early game, she should spend most of her time farming. Once she hits level 6 and Enchanted Crystal Arrow becomes available, she can burst down a target if you have appropriate help. A good support for her is one that can keep her sustained and in the lane to farm constantly. If that support has a stun in addition, all the better. Tarek or Sona, for example. They can combo stuns to kill a target before it can even move. When aiming to hit an enemy at long range with Enchanted Crystal Arrow, try to lead your target. Fire where you think they are going, not where they are. People are constantly moving in this game, so a miss is highly likely. Practice, 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 and you can become an expert sniper. Ashe is a late game carry with a ton of crazy utility. Farm like a madman and stay in the back of fights, and you'll quickly become a killing machine. With that, thanks for watching. If you have enjoyed this guide, please let me know by hitting the like button. Speak up in the comments below if you have advice or questions. We're all here to learn. Subscribe for future content, including champion guides, gameplay guides, and other possibly not lol content. Till next time, I've been Gin, and you've been watching me talk about a video game. Now, to the fields of justice, swiftly!
This song is dedicated to all the Rift Casanovas and all you basement Romeos. You know who you are. She's my queen, lady of my dreams. Seems cold, but she's sweet as ice cream. Always got my back when I need assistance. Long range looker, stunning from a distance. Great listener, cute face off.